So thank you, everyone, and thanks to the panelists. The way this will work will be similar to the last panel. I'll make just a few opening comments, just to maybe set the stage a little bit. Then we'll have each of our panelists do about 5 or 6 minutes talking about their perspective on the topic, what they see. I've asked each one to focus a little bit on the opportunity side of things, and then we'll have a few questions that'll be more focused on some of the challenges. And I'll rattle through that with each of the panelists. I have a couple of questions designed specifically for each one, but please feel free to comment if you want to add on to one of the other questions. And then we'll go to the audience and take your questions before we wrap up. So let's dive in. So we've heard a lot today about the market opportunities, and no doubt we're going to hear more from our panelists. And the statistics back up the excitement, right? So recent estimates include 73 million connected cars by 2023. AVs could be 20% of global new vehicle sales by 2025. 90% of new cars could be connected to the internet by 2020. And by 2030, China expects fully autonomous vehicles to comprise 10% of car sales. And some estimates put it that all new cars will have V2V installed by 2020, with V2X shortly thereafter. So it's an exciting time, no doubt, but clearly there are also some challenges in certain areas, and some of which we've heard from today, and some we haven't yet covered, and we'll get to some of those today. So certainly infrastructure, including GPS accuracy, digital maps, and speed of transmission. We've heard some of that today. AI and the technology, of course, around object detection and analysis and decision making. Alliances and partnerships. We've talked a little bit about alliances. I think we'll go a little bit deeper in that in this session. The passenger experience, of course, cost is always an issue, and affordability, cybersecurity and regulation. And then one area that I want to get to with the panel, last but not least, and is sort of the human capital or the people side of the equation, right? Which is paradoxically both the farthest from the technology as well as the closest to the technology in a lot of ways. And so I think that'll be an interesting area to hear from the panelists from. So with that, I'll actually like to turn it over to the panelists and have them start to step into the topic. And Ron, maybe we can start with you and talk about the perspective from WM.
Right. Thank you, Dan, and thank you everybody for having me here. First of all, just a few words about WM Motor, so what it is. So we are a newcomer to the field, 3.5-year-old. And in the past 3.5 years, we have designed our product, the first product, established our own manufacturing footprint in Wenzhou, and we are ready to go. As a matter of fact, at the end of this month, we're going to kick off our job one for our very first product, the X5, to the market. So that is going to be a big day for us. Our objective, our vision is to be the smart and new energy transportation solution provider for the society. So that is our new goal. And frankly, today I see quite a few of my former colleagues from Ford and GD. So really happy to be here to talk to old friends and also new friends. Regarding autonomous driving, we have devoted quite a bit into this field. It is well known in the industry that is divided from L1 all the way to L5 for complete autonomous driving. Mm-hmm. And at this moment, we are capable for handling or delivering L2.5, that kind of level of capability. And we do think after everything is said and discussed and all the dust is settled, at the end of the day, we're talking about human safety here. And being a socially responsible company, that is the utmost number one concern in our mind. And until technology is mature enough and well tested and conquered or all of the psychological barriers for the average Joes, then we're going to put it on our products, because we are at the end of the application chain. And we have scientists here, engineers here, marketeers here. But as an OEM, our job is to integrate everything and make it available for the mass market. And that is our job. And unless it is all tested correctly, we won't just bluntly put it on. So that's why it is defined as from L1 to L5.
Right.
That explains how the market is going to move. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Charlie, maybe we hear from you and perspective from Brannan on.
So Brannan Auto is probably the smallest foreign-owned automobile manufacturer in China. I don't need to say probably, we definitely are. We have, last month we signed an agreement with Beijing Auto Works, which has no connection with BAIC, to manufacture our off-road vehicles in China for the China market. So this is all, nobody knows about this. Hope there's no press here.
I think there might be.
Yeah, I was being facetious. But what we're reintroducing a street legal off-road vehicle onto the market, and we will be launching that vehicle in the first hopefully before Chinese New Year 2019. So the vehicles are already tooled up. We're doing final specifications, final tuning for the vehicle for street driving. The reason why we chose off-road street legal vehicles is because of the research that we've done into the autonomous vehicle market and what's going to happen after autonomous vehicles come online. So I personally believe that my background is I started working on electric vehicles back in don't want to exaggerate, 1991. And so building electric vehicles, personally refitting a Ford Escort to operate it as an electric vehicle. And I did it once, then I did it again. And then I worked on another electric vehicle, and then I worked on some ultra capacitors. And I looked at the industry, I said, you know what, it's just not ready. And that was 30 years ago. Now, my view of the automobile industry is that in 10 years from now, I think the Chinese government is overly conservative when they say 2030, 10% of the market will be autonomous. I think it will be double or triple, or even more than that. I think that if you think about the mobile phone that you were using 10 years ago, was probably a Nokia. That company no longer exists. It's gone. So everybody in this room is looking at an industry. It would be like sitting in a room in 2002 and trying to predict where is the mobile phone industry going to be in 2010. And what we know today is that one of the largest and certainly the industry leader, Apple, wasn't in the mobile phone industry in 2002 or in 2005 or whenever. And if you remember back to the press articles of 2007 when Apple launched their first iPhone, everybody said, oh, nobody's going to buy a phone that doesn't have a keyboard. Apple is, they don't have any experience in the wireless market. They're going to fail. And now look today. The number one is Apple, and the number two is a copy of Apple. And where's number three? There is no number three. So that is what is about to happen to the automobile industry. And once the conventional automobile industry is destroyed by the autonomous vehicle market, I, as the CEO of Brannan Auto, looked at the market and said, well, where can we still compete? What can we still do? And I came up with 4 industries, 4 vertical markets that will still be there after autonomous vehicles take over the market. One will be luxury. That's not an industry I want to compete in. One will be sports cars, like Ferrari, Lamborghini, those kind of things. Those cars will always exist because they're really toys for rich people. One will be pickup trucks and utility vans, and because those are businesses are run out of those. And the last market that we looked at was off-road. And that market, we believe, will triple by 2030. And so that's the market that we decided to focus on.
Okay, thanks. Rick,
thanks,
give us your view from Singulato, please.
Hello everyone, I'm Li Jianpeng from Singulato Motor, and I'm responsible for autonomous driving architecture. And Singulato is a startup which is founded in 2014, and we aim to design and produce intelligent electric vehicles and relevant mobility service in Chinese market. And we will get our first vehicle SOP by end of this year. Yeah. And I think it's a pleasure to be here today to share our thoughts on the autonomous driving challenge and opportunity topic. I still remember 7 years ago when the ADAS function began to roll out in Chinese market. We thought that it's so important. We thought that it could be the most important feature in auto industry, maybe in the following 20 or 30 years. But today, let's say we saw that the autonomous driving technology made a great progress in the last years, and people start to think about how to bring this technology to the reality or to a product. So the opportunity is vast, but we need to be aware that there is still a long way to go, and there's a lot of challenge we need to solve. For example, cybersecurity or cost or legal issue. Yeah. So I think we as one of the players, I think we should work together to solve the problem and to try our best to solve the every technical or legal problem. And I think that the forum today is quite a good opportunity for us to share our experience or our concerns on this topic. Yeah, thank you.
Excellent, thank you. So a great mix of experience here. So Rick, maybe I'll just stay with you. And you mentioned challenge. We'll come on to cyber, so put that aside for the moment. But when you think about it from Singulato's perspective, and I do want to get into sort of challenges for each of you, where are you focusing in terms of what's maybe the one or two key challenges for you as you think about making this vision that we've all been talking about this morning a reality?
Yeah, indeed, we have a lot of challenge on the topic. I think first of all, of course, it's the technical itself, because as mentioned just now, that we are still at a very early phase or early stage of this technology, and we are at this research phase. We are focusing on how to let the system to achieve more features or functions, like automatic lane change or merge in or merge out. But later we need to think about how to verify this functionality or the stability. We need to think about how to make sure that the vehicle will not do something. For example, we need to make sure that vehicle or the system will not do any unintended lane change or braking. Or we need to make sure that the vehicle will not get out of control if one sensor is invalid. Yeah. And I think secondly, the challenge is the cost. Because as we know that the autonomous driving, the prototype is still quite expensive. Maybe we take the LiDAR sensor, for example. Most LiDAR we used in this in the autonomous driving project all over the world are mainly rotating laser beams. or laser scanners, and they are incredibly expensive, I would say. And because the reason is because that each sensor needs to be fine-tuned by experienced technicians on the production line. And in addition, the sensor itself is not a automotive grade product. So, but fortunately, we saw that most LiDAR supplier, they are working on solid state LiDAR, which will be much more cheaper, and the product can be could be automotive grade. Yeah. And the situation applies to many sensors or many devices like IMU or processing device. Yeah. I think moreover, we have some legal issues to be solved. Yeah. Because as you know that there is only a few states or province in China give a clear permission that the autonomous driving system can be deployed on public or tested on public road. Most of the province there's no clear answer on this question, and I think the test or the product is still in a legal gray zone. So I think this is a challenge we need to solve. Yeah? And last but not least, maybe we need to adapt or upgrade our infrastructure or our driving pattern to make sure that the autonomous driving system can understand the environment or can understand the behavior of a human driver better, in a better way.
Right. And then learn from all those experiments in a way that's useful to the ecosystem, right? Thank you. So Ron, let me come back to you. So you talked a little bit in your opening about sort of L 2.5, right? But I know you've got ideas around 4.0 and 5.0, and so your challenges in terms from an R&D perspective to achieve that vision. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Right. First of all, it is kind of interesting to have a CFO to talk about technology, right? So I'm a bean counter, professional bean counter. I'm just kidding. Before I start, Dan, sure. I would like to share my congratulations to Neil for their listing or expected listing tomorrow, maybe tonight. Okay, and we wish them good luck and success because they are part of this new endeavor in this field. So we're all working together as a whole team in this whole wave. With that said, I would say L4, L5. I would like to have an analogy because this is the best I can explain about technology. Okay. Imagine this autonomous driver as a human being, right? And we have a lot of sensors on the cars. So they are like our eyes and our ears. And obviously we need a brain. And the brain is like mobile, like Google, like Baidu, what's that? Oh, they have a very strong calculating power, calibration, algebra. And then what? Then they need to execute instructions, right? So they need limbs. And who are they? They are the Bosch, they are the Continentals, they are the Valios, they are all the traditional part suppliers. Okay, they can develop all of these. Then what happens? Application needs to have somewhere to applicate, right? So it's the body. The body is the OEM. Okay, so the OEM put together, consolidate all of these different parts of the equation. So then we have a car. And then what I think the optimal stage of autonomous drive is to have this car or this person walking on the street in this living society and danger-free. That's where we envision what this level 5 or level 4 is. So with that said, we believe the natural focal point for all of this activity is the OEM. We may have traditional OEMs, we have newcomers, whatever way we define it, it doesn't matter. Whoever who has a chance to put all the blocks together and solve the puzzle and offer a comprehensive solution, that is the way to go. And we are part of this. Obviously, people talked about, in the previous panel, we also heard that people talk about all of the complications, not only from the technology side, but also from the infrastructure side, from the legality side, everything. That is what we're born for. Dan, you mentioned about challenges and difficulties. Even without talking about this subject, I have a bunch of challenges all over me already. So one extra one, that doesn't add too much more. What we're trying to say is, I think everybody in this room together, we are the entrepreneurs to help drive this field ahead. Where is that going to land and how long that is going to take? I don't know. That's a puzzle for all of us to solve. But we can already see pretty concrete pictures in front of us. We have already seen early stage applications, L1s, L2s, L2.5, maybe L2.6, 2.7, whatever. So we're really moving fast along this track. In terms of the concrete technology, who is going to win out? We don't know. There are a lot of competing technologies. Certainly, as a bean counter, I always need to talk about cost. That is a very critical part of the whole equation. And the way I see it is, I think the difference between a car and a cell phone is, if a cell phone doesn't work, it doesn't work. The worst part is that it probably blows up half of my face. But if a car doesn't work, then you lose the life of your loved one. So that is certainly an unbearable responsibility and duty. And that is going to be the fundamental difference between a car and everything else, all the other consumer products. So that is why we're not taking this lightly.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So Charlie, when you and I talked about challenges, one of the things I think we kind of quickly got to was around alliances, right? And I think Patrick said it from the previous panel, the technology's sexy, but it's not just always about the technology, right? I mean, there's many things that go into a good alliance and a good strategic partnership. You mentioned that this is one of the areas that you're concerned about. Maybe you can talk a little bit more about that.
Well, excuse me. Well, it's the technical aspects of autonomous driving. I don't see anything that is really insurmountable. I mean, one person from the last panel mentioned LED lights and the fact that present-day cameras may not be able to detect, or present-day vision technology may not be able to read those cameras. And that to me is a simple engineering problem that we're building up a team of 400 plus engineers together with Beijing Auto Works to design the first new electric vehicle that they're going to be launching in 2020. So that's a job for engineers to handle. And I'm really not concerned about those kind of roadblocks in the development of autonomous vehicles. I think it's forming a partnership with another company, which is integral in China. I mean, as an American company, we can't sell vehicles in China, not vehicles that can be driven on the road. And if I want to sell off-road vehicles in China that can't be driven on the road, well, maybe I can sell a couple dozen. That's not going to turn Brannan Auto into an automobile manufacturer. We need to be shipping thousands or tens of thousands of vehicles in China. And so to do that, our focus was to be focused on the off-road market, because we see this as, after autonomous vehicles come on board, there's the remaining people out there, what's going to happen after autonomous vehicles are everywhere? Well, you're not going to drive anymore. And the only time you're going to drive is when it's a sport. So, again, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, Corvettes, maybe Ford Mustangs. But those are going to be, that's a market that I don't want to compete with. In the off-road market, it's all off-road. The problem is that the vehicle that you originally had to bring your vehicle from one place to another is not going to exist anymore. So those off-road vehicles need to transform to be on-road. So we had to find a partner that had an off-road manufacturing license in China. Yeah, there is such a thing. So there's a specific vehicle category in China called off-road vehicles. It's a type 2. Most cars are type 7. SUVs are type 6. We need to find a type 2 partner. And there's only about 20 companies out there. And BAIC is like 6 of them. And Dongfeng is like 4 of them. So our field of potential partners was rather limited. And then we went to our first wasn't our first partner. Our first partner we approached, they said, we want nothing to do with off-road. We want to go 100% into NEVs. And eventually we found a partner, BAW, who says, yeah, we want to do 100% electric vehicles, but we also are only known as an off-road manufacturer. So we kind of lucked out. The unique thing about BAW, and probably one of the most attractive things for them to partner with us, was that we were working on a very unique autonomous vehicle that has nothing to do with off-road. And so their interest in us was exactly the opposite of our interest in them. And hopefully it will be a foundation for a good relationship.
Great, thanks. So Rick, I want to talk a little bit about security and safety, including cybersecurity, right? So this topic covers everything from privacy to penetrating the vehicle or hacking the vehicle through just some of the safety issues that Ron has talked about and some of the other panelists have talked about earlier. How do you look at that? I know this is an area that's pretty near and dear to your heart. How do you think about that, and what are you trying to do to address those issues and challenges?
Yeah, because as you know that in traditional auto industry we have mainly 2 safety issues to take care. One is active safety, include like ABS or ESP function, which aim to prevent the vehicle or the system from collision. Yeah, another one is passive safety, like seat belt or airbag or other physical restriction system, which I would say protect the vehicle or protect the pedestrian, protect the passenger from injury during collision. And in a broad sense, I would say that autonomous driving is similar to active safety. So the system needs to prevent the vehicle or the system from collision, and it should keep in safety mode. And so we need to make sure that the system will not do any make no hazard to the driver or to the passenger. And in this case, we need to consider how to make sure that the system is safe, and we need to make sure we need to consider function safety, for example, and for autonomous driving or connected vehicles, another safety or security issue we need to consider is cybersecurity. There are mainly 2 aspects, I would say, on this topic. One is the control interface control interface security, because we know that for autonomous driving we need to release or give the control interface to the system, including acceleration, deceleration, and steering, like that. And so once we give the control access to the system, we give the possibility to some unauthorized visitors, like a hacker maybe. Yeah. So the attack, so it can be attacked by the visitors, and the attack can be done via maybe network communication or sensor jamming attack. And another attack, another aspect I would like to say is privacy. Because for autonomous driving, is compared to traditional vehicle, we need to share or upload a lot of information to server or to backend to get the service. For example, we need to upload your position, your destination to the backend in order to download the local HD map. Yeah. So we need to. So in this case, we need to consider how to build up our safety guard system to prevent any privacy leakage. Yeah.
If I can ask you a follow-up question on the safety side, how do you balance the sort of the safety, the minimum level of safety, the minimum level you need for all versus the driving preferences of some? How do you think about that, or is it sort of are you thinking about it as a it's a one-size-fits-all model, and that's sort of the way it will be, at least at the outset? How do you think about that? How do you balance that?
I think the minimal requirement is that we need to keep the system itself in a safe mode. Yeah. And we need to protect the once a leakage or once the system cannot handle any situations, there should be a backup solution to keep that the vehicle or the system in a safe mode to park in a safe area or give a warning to the driver to take over.
Okay. So Ron, let me come over to you. WM talks a lot about whole vehicle interaction, right?
Yes.
Maybe you can talk a little bit about how you're addressing that, and maybe where you see opportunity there, but also how you're addressing some of the challenges that come along with trying to achieve that.
Right. Dan, the way we see it is, for example, there is internal and external portions of connectivity. That's the way I simplify this thing. And there are a lot of third-party technology suppliers who are focusing on external connectivities, like the navigation, like entertainment, all of those. That's great. That's brilliant. However, we have to remember that all of these have to interact with the functionalities of the car. Mm-hmm. So then we talk about the internal integration with the car, with the CAN bus, with the CAN system, all of those. And there are a lot of controllers and modules in the car already as we speak now. And I think how to integrate these two portions, that represents a challenge to a lot of the manufacturers out here. Why? Again, I'm using the bean counter statement to explain it. The OEMs, they are used to develop the hardware in their own systems. And that is tested out throughout the 100 years, okay? And they trust nobody but themselves. And they also trust a bunch of the other suppliers who have been working with them in the past, I don't know, decades, right? That trust is established over time. And now, suddenly, if we have software suppliers coming in and say, okay, yes, I want to touch the brake device, I want to touch a steering wheel, and so on and so forth. That is like the hardware engineers is like, whoa, leave me alone. Right. So this is a culture clip, is right there. It is happening in front of our eyes. And how do we integrate that better? The way we see it is that eventually, in-house software development capability is going to be a critical strategic advantage for those who have it compared to those who have not. Okay, only these people who have the trust from their hardware partners and also from the third-party software suppliers, and they are so critical. It is like, for example, nowadays in the OEM world, in the research lab we have release engineers. It's like their roles. They are working with the scientists and they're working with the suppliers and make it happen. And at this moment, I think in the auto world, we lack this kind of functional people for the software part. This is a totally new role for all of us. And this is, I think, is going to be critical. In terms of connectivity and the way we see it is, for example, very practically speaking, OTA is going to be absolutely important for all the products on the road. And it is a really shame for the industry to see, consumers driving a fabulous car with a fabulous T-box, with nice screen and showing all the, nice UI, UE and everything, and suddenly they have an iPhone attached to it. This is a slap right in the face to all of us in the industry. I can't bear it. I don't think anybody in this room should bear this as well. What's wrong? What is wrong in this whole thing? I think what is wrong is people who develop the things lose touch from the market. And we have to remember anything that is talking about connectivity, that has to be related to consumer behavior. And that is linked to culture. And imagine then if you and I we sit here and try to develop a cell phone interface for India. What is that going to happen? Do you think that is going to be successful? Obviously not. Same question shows here. A lot of international or global manufacturers who have R&D centers in Stuttgart, in Detroit, in those places, and they need to globalize their R&D. The minute they say that, the minute they start to lose touch with each one of the local market demand. Yeah. And I think this is a challenge that is facing all of us. I'm not saying that there's a general solution. I'm saying that we have to bear that in mind. And for WM Motor, at this moment, we're focusing in China market, and what the consumers shop for, earning for, is what we're going to deliver. Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you. So you brought me right to the next question. You started to touch on people and culture, and that's exactly, Charlie, where I wanted to go to next. The prior panel talked about sort of the sexy technology, and the other side of that coin was trust. I think it might be a three-sided coin, because I think another side of that coin is people, which, Ron, you sort of took us to. And I'm just wondering, Charlie, particularly from your CEO perspective, but then I'd like Rick and Ron, if you want to make any further comments, to talk about, in some ways, it's about the technology, but all this in some ways boils down to having the right people in the right place at the right time, attracting, retaining, and retraining people to do what we need them to do in order to make all this that we've been talking about all morning a reality. So how do you do that from your chair? And then Rick, I'd ask you to comment as well, and Ron, if you want to add to it, we can, and then we'll go to the audience with questions.
Well, I think that's an incredibly challenging thing right now, especially in China, because in China, I mean, the reality of China is there's too many car companies. And maybe the flip side of that is that China has become the leader of the world in producing small startup car companies. And so, we go out, we try to recruit an engineer, and this guy wants more than, a new graduate wants more than we've got some guys working on our team that have been working for us for 3 or 4 years that, you know, their monthly salary is less than these new recruits. So the competition between, you've got basically 3 companies sitting on the stage that are going to launch products in the next 6 months in China. And if you asked the average consumer on the street, if you've ever heard of any one of us, I think, you know, you guys are probably the most famous of the 3 of us.
Thank you.
So the competition to go after talent in China is incredible. And as an American, I like to, you know, bring in some Americans into China. So I like to go after American engineers in China. But my problem with American engineers is that they lack one critical skill. They don't speak Chinese. And if they don't speak Chinese, then it's really difficult for them to integrate with the market here into China. It's difficult for them to communicate with their fellow Chinese engineers. So we have a package where, you know, some guy graduates from college in the United States, and we put him back into school to learn Chinese for a year. And when he comes out of that, so he's, you know, in an intern position for a year. And when he comes out of that, then he's in an engineering position here in China. And he's doing engineer while he's learning Chinese.
Sure.
But I want to actively, you know, engineering is becoming a global business. I mean, we do A-surface design in the Czech Republic. We do engineering design in Germany. We do off-road design in the United States, and we're working with a guy in Ukraine. So we've got engineers all over the world, and I think that the interesting thing about being in the automobile business today is that the internet allows us to cross borders and to bring in resources that were originally not available. But if I'm building a team here in China, I want people who can speak Chinese.
Yeah. Makes sense. Rick, how do you deal with that from a Singulato perspective? How do you try to get the right people? How do you try to keep them? Build your team locally so that you're in tune to the local environment as much as possible. How do you do that?
Yeah, actually, in our company, we have I would say we have a team working on ADAS function, which will be released on our first vehicle model, and we have another team working on the level 2 or level 3 or level 4 autonomous driving development. There are 2 branches working on this topic. One is in China, and another one is in Silicon Valley, in Santa Clara, I would say. So, and this gives a chance to to approach the latest algorithm or technology, and give us a chance to attract more talent, more smart talent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, great. Ron, you've touched on this already. Is there anything else you want to add as we've kind of talked about this people question?
I guess a lot of people talk about competing for talent. I would use a different word. I would say we would like to attract talent. Seriously. Just 3 years ago, we had only like 10 people, a very small team. Now we have over 2,000, right? How we do that? Really, fundamentally, I don't think our pay is much better than the average industry. Sometimes actually it's lower. And we do think that our value system, that is the core for attracting talent. People agree that, you know, that what we're doing is what they're trying to do down their career path. And people understand there's a lot of uncertainties, right in front of them, but they see the light in front of the tunnel. So that's what attracts them.
Yeah.
And it's such a fabulous, endeavor. People really enjoy it.
Yeah, we see the same from a PwC perspective, especially with millennials, right?
Really?
They really are looking for that. Okay, well, thank you, panelists. Let's go. We have a little bit of time for questions from the audience, so let's get to that. There's one there, and then we'll come here, and then in the back.
Hi everyone,
Could you speak up, please?
Hi everyone, I'm Serena from Brannan Auto European law firm. So I have a question about some actually legal challenge. I think the speakers have mentioned that nowadays the Chinese government has tightened up the threshold to issue the new manufacturing license to the startup OEMs. So my question is that there are several solutions for example, you acquire a license holder, I think like what AmCham Motor has did, or you form a cooperation framework agreement with existing traditional OEMs, like many other new startup OEMs doing, I think including Singulato or also NIO. So my question is, what is the challenge between the cooperation between the new startup OEM and the traditional OEM? For example, how do you allocate the risk? Like, are there any know-how protection concern? What would be the product liability concern behind the SOP process? Also, what about the after-sales service and etc.? So.
Okay. Who would like to address that? Rick, do you want to? Ron, you have to?
Well, or Rick,
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, currently we have announced that we have a cooperation with BAC EV currently, and actually we have I think the cooperation is is going very well. Yeah, but I'm not responsible for this part, so I have no too much comments on this. And in addition, we are applying for our own license, because we think that if our product is good enough, there's no risk to get the license. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like to add to
Sure.
what Rick just said. I think fundamentally we need to understand the driving force behind the policy. The driving force is there's overcapacity in China in the auto sector, just like every other industry, right? But if you peel the onion, suddenly realize, well, top-notch capacity is not sufficient. There's a lot of junk capacity out there. That's what the industry is trying to reshape. So we believe, not just us, because we got the license already, but we believe anybody who has sound technology, sound product, sound capability will eventually be able to have a license one way or another. Because the government policy is oriented towards supporting those good ones, not the bad ones.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Thank you. I think there's a question here, and then we'll go to the back.
Okay. Guys, appreciate the presentation. Just my name is Jason. I work with Eastern American. We also work very closely with BMW Brilliance up in Shenyang, Northeast China. So as you guys already know, I think really our motto as coming from the Beamer side is like we share driving pleasure. I guess I want to ask about the coexistence of driving pleasure, safety, and then autonomous driving, because this topic up in BMW, we kind of hate it. It's like how do you put pleasure together with something you don't even touch? How do you find pleasure driving a car when you can't even touch the steering wheel? So I guess I want to ask about that relates to my question is, like, I want to understand how the car is going to be designed and the feature, safety features on the car, what's needed. So it really affects the supply chain system. Do we really need bumpers, seat belts, airbags? Also, like, safety features like blind spot detection system. So I guess I'm trying to understand, how companies like BMW, who really we focus on, driving as a pleasure, not, as like you can just sit in the car being lazy, the car drives you. How do we find a coexistence in between? I'm just trying to see, your input. Like, is it possible? What's going to happen 20 years from now when it comes to driving pleasure? Thank you, guys.
So Charlie, I wonder if I could start with you.
Yeah.
I owned a BMW, and sometimes I wanted to absolutely drive that car, and other times I wanted to sit in the back and read my report before I get into the office. So maybe you and
Yeah.
Charlie
Ron,
should
maybe you can
definitely
a
take
shot
on
at
that
I'm a
because
huge fan of-
you said there's no existence for Nokia. I'm telling you right here, man. I got a phone right here. So I'm just saying, I'll probably be the only one here.
Well,
though.
You're
No, I
a,
think
you're a
there's some
very, you're a huge minority in this room. How many other people have Nokia phones in this room?
I'll raise right here.
Okay, so the scariest thing I want to say to you is I'm a huge fan of BMW. I've owned, my first BMW was a 3.0, 325, 330, 7 Series, 5 Series. So I love BMW. I don't own one right now because I work in the automobile industry and I don't pay retail for cars anymore. So you guys want to give me one, that would be great. But
You didn't expect that question coming back.
How's that?
All right, let's get to his question.
But you're the single person in this room that has a Nokia phone in your pocket. Now I'm gonna say something that's scary, but BMWs are fantastic cars, and it's the driving machine. I love driving a BMW. 2030, I wonder if there's another room of people talking about autonomous driving, and there's one person who raises his hand who has a BMW. And that's the scary thing, that, if you're talking about driving machines, where is BMW situated? Do they really have a sports car? I mean, they have the Z8, they have the Z4, the Z3. Some of the electric vehicles are fantastic. But where does BMW situate itself? The luxury side of things, I think BMW will do fine. But the thing that I see in the OEM automobile business is nobody's designing this vehicle. Nobody's designing the iPhone. Nobody's designing the new vehicle that's completely different from what everybody's driving today. It's all 4 seats, it's all, maybe it's electric. The future is an electric vehicle that is autonomous, that picks you up and takes you to your destination. And you talk a lot about safety, but I think when you're 16 and you want to go to the keg party down the street and you don't want to drive because you don't want to lose your car, well, autonomous vehicle, and you can't ask your parents because, yeah, Mom, take me to the keg party down the street. That's not going to happen. So an autonomous vehicle is freedom of transportation for everybody under what, 22, 24? So it's going to transform the entire industry. And I think BMW will be fine. I think more than one person will own a BMW, but there will be some brands where, they will cease to exist because the purpose of the car ceases to exist.
Did you want to make any comment, Ron?
Sure.
And then we'll
30
we'll
seconds?
squeeze in one, and we'll
Right.
squeeze one more in the back, and then
Right.
move on.
I'll just add.
While you add, can I just touch up? Because, BMW and we 100% believe learning the IT crap on an autonomous vehicle is just like going through an autopilot system. A lot of people would think that's harder than flying, so can you talk about that too? I'm just saying, like right now, we just have to learn how to drive. With this thing coming out, we have to learn the IT stuff. Can you talk about that too? Thank you.
Well, I'd like to share. We're talking about not just a device as a toy. We're talking about a device that is accepted by the whole society. And the distribution is like a bell curve, and the core part of that is risk averse. That is, regardless whether we agree or don't agree, that is what it is. So we need to design something for that population, not the 5% over here. From that perspective, that's one thing. Another thing I would say, again, come back to China's history. Okay, the Chinese society, the Chinese history is the people. They are all following the Confucius philosophy. Okay. On the one hand, you may see people are very aggressive or risk-loving in terms of investing in the stock market. I don't understand that. But on the other hand, people are extremely conservative and extremely risk-averse. So now we're talking about a technology that is, okay, I'm going to enjoy, on the other hand, on the one hand, I'm going to enjoy 5 minutes of relaxation, okay? Read my report in your case, Dan. On the other hand, I may have a chance to risk my life. So what is the balance there? That is going to run through everybody's mind, okay? And that is the technology we're talking about. I always want to have people focus in that, which is very different than the US market and Europe as well. They have the individualism, individual spirit, and the freedom, okay? That kind of a drive. And maybe a larger percentage of people may want to adapt or adopt to this new technology immediately. But China is a very different society. Again, I would say when we talk about technology in the lab, that's a different story. When we talk about products that's going to be sold and used in the market, we have to understand the market mix and culture mix and history as well.
Great.
Okay, but John Rat,
Final comment, and we're going to wrap this up.
you're discounting one thing, and that is the communist, that is the People's Republic of China wants to be the leader in electric vehicles. And if you're going to be the leader in electric vehicles, then you must, absolutely must, be the leader in autonomous vehicles.
Yes,
because
we are. I never said we're not.
No. Actually, let me rephrase that. China is already the leader in electric vehicles, and China will definitely be the leader in autonomous vehicles. There's a reason why. Now, I wear two hats. One is electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles, and the other is off-road vehicles. But China has a classification for off-road vehicles that no other country that I know of in the world has. So we're able to launch our product in China. We don't have to have airbags. We don't have to have intelligent ABS. We don't have to have a lot of things that in the United States. ESP, we don't have to have that in China. So it's the ideal market for us to launch that first vehicle. In the autonomous vehicle market, while I agree with you 100%, Chinese are very conservative, and China is completely different. The market in China, from a marketing standpoint, will be different from the market in the United States. You're not going to have high schoolers wanting to go to keg parties in China. No, that was a US analogy, not an applicable China analogy. But there will definitely, the government will definitely support autonomous vehicle development in China, because to maintain its leadership in the electric vehicle market, they must be the leaders in the autonomous vehicle market.
Charlie, sorry, excuse me, Dan, can I have one last comment? This is brilliant.
This is good discussion.
Yeah.
Well, let's wrap it because we're keeping this group from lunch.
Sorry
Right?
about that. Just one last comment. Two statements. My opening statement is WM Motor, our vision is to provide smart new energy transportation solutions to the consumers.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about a vehicle anymore. Solutions. That's what we believe deep in here.
Sure.
The second is, I believe the Chinese market, if we have technology who are ready or which are ready for the Chinese market, that is going to be ready for other markets. That's my mind. Okay. The third statement is, I think at this moment, a lot of those autonomous assisting or supporting technology that is trying to reduce the driving stress, reduce the driving dangers, and enhance safety, those are going to be readily applicable to the vehicles. That is what we're talking about. L2s, L2.5s, all of those are for this purpose. The fourth thing is, I think the Chinese system, infrastructure, in fact, is more advanced in terms of preparing themselves to accept the autonomous driving than a lot of other markets. For example, a lot of the streets, you have the surveillance cameras, all of them are connected. And that's so good for V2X.
Right.
Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Well, listen, let me thank the panelists for an impassioned discussion. Thank you guys for your questions and for being here. Thank you.
Thank you.